Fabulous.
Thank you. And I'm going to record also. Great. Happy March. Welcome to the March 8th edition of the Earth Nouveau Hub, Exploring Consciousness. And today we're going to explore the journey that I took to Egypt with my friend Melanie Kay and some other folks. And yeah, just talking about going through a little activation. But I think, you know, just starting out, the energy of the desert is an amazing, amazing place to be. And the sand was everywhere. One of the things I noticed, it took me about 2 weeks to actually get all of the sand out of my hair. You know, it was just like layered in, you know, so I understand why people wear head coverings and hair coverings, because there's this just the finest dust that is, you know, ancient, coming from ancient, you know, ancient broken up rocks and riverbeds and peat dust and dog poop and camel poop and horse poop. And, you know, there's just everything in this sand, and it's fine and it's dusty and it coats everything. So that was one of the things that I really noticed, you know, definitely came home with me when I came back. So I have a little activation that I thought we would go through, and it's sort of a little meditation journey, and also includes a chakra activation with some of the amazing Andara stones that we got near the Philae temple, the Isis temple. And so it's sort of like an eye open journey, because I'm going to be sharing my screen, and we'll go through visuals that will activate you. So without any further ado, let me see here. Where are you? Nope, that's what I want. Okay. Right. So welcome to the Egypt chakra, Nile chakra recalibration activation. So take a deep breath into your body and feel yourself grounding. Allow yourself to open your heart and open your mind as we go through a journey. As the scarab draws the sun across the sky, over pyramids, over Saqqara, Anubis meets us at Dashur. He helps us to unbind the earthbound souls that were trapped, that are now released and can cross over, integrating their soul shards with those who are open. Anubis guides us through the desert where the Nile used to flow. This timeless sand where millions of lives, planting, harvesting, living, dying, loving, making life, allow us to feel the timelessness and the endlessness of the human journey on Earth. And here the stargate opens. Anubis holds the stargate open in this timeless space where all energies flow open and closed. You can feel the energy of the red granite and the black basalt and all of the sand and rocks. The dragon dances in the full moonlight, leading us now to the shores of Lake Nasser. And as the sun rises, this lake has backed up into the Nile River Valley, created by the high dam. And this root chakra space in the Nile River Valley chakra activation has opened up more fully. The space creates a bubble that moves outward, wider, as we open up to the sunrise on Abu Simbel, the temple of Ramses II. This area, as you breathe now into your root chakra, breathe into the base of your spine, breathe into your perineum, and feel now the Andhara root chakra activation at Abu Simbel. You can feel the recalibration, the realignment. Feel the energy of the scarab and of the grounding. So we travel now again through the desert, through the Sahara, where volcanic cones rise up like pyramids. Through the dust, through the sand, we come to the high dam at Aswan, holding the energy in place. And as the high dam held the energy in place, I'm trying to admit Herminia into the waiting room, and now I don't know how to do that. My screen seems to be frozen in place, just like the high dam was freezing the Nile in place.
I was just going to say that, Tanya. I'm like, it's blocked because this is a big block.
This is a big block. So as we all concentrate on allowing the block to unblock and unwind, this space was, I will wait until my computer decides to come back to life. It's thinking. Yeah. So this energy block was very, very bound up, and created an energy structure that went all the way through from the back of the Nile Dam, where it was built. And so this is the second dam that was actually built on the Nile. So there's two dams, the high dam and the low dam, where actually the Philae temple, the Isis temple, is in between the two dams. But the river, the elements in the river was really talking to me when we were here. And yeah, so I did some energy unbinding work, freed some of the elemental energy that was stuck. And, you know, as AB talks about the old energetic magic, there is no new magicians to redo the magic. So as we unbound the bindings that were here, it's almost like now this energy can flow more freely.
Can I share a quick piece about that,
Yes,
Tanya?
please do, because
Okay.
I'm having trouble moving forward from here. So obviously it's Melanie's turn to share something.
Well, this, you know, being in between Abu Simbel, which we're really connecting with the root chakra, and it being in between that and the sacral chakra, feeling that this was actually the place where the cervix would land in a female body, but it's also the place of the cervix is the place where creative projects can get birthed. So on an energetic level, that's where the birthing of creativity was getting blocked. And this is a partnership with with Russia. And its pure intent was to hold the water back. It wasn't, they do have a small energetic generation going on from the water coming through the dam. But the other dam that was built before it was actually free flowing to create energy. So it wasn't really about blocking the flow. This was particularly about holding the water back and creating Lake Nasser and flooding the route. So that's all I have to do.
Yeah, I'm sorry, guys. My computer is just frozen right now. I don't know what's going on, but
Still work to do on the cervix.
Yeah. Okay. So, just take a nice deep breath into that space between the root chakra and the sacral chakra area, and allow a new flow of energy between that space. Like we think about the chakras, right? But how often do we think about that space between where the chakras are? Yeah, I'm sorry, guys. I don't know what's going on here. I'm totally frozen up.
So let's, Tanya, why don't we use our energy capacities all together and unblock whatever that is blocking. And maybe
That's great. Thanks, Martina.
Maybe what we can do is, because there is so much energy in this, maybe we can break through and actually call it out. So let's start with, what do we call that energy that we are perceiving? And just anyone can just call it out. Just just go with one sort of word. And I'm going to kick it off with intensity.
I'll just name too that this dam isn't shaped like a normal dam. They actually use pyramidal structure to create this dam. So it's like the whole thing is like this with the road at the top. So that's just something to name, that there is intensity and there's structure to this. There's clear intention in this block.
Isn't it interesting, isn't it? The first day of Saturn in Pisces, where the structure is fighting the free flow, the dissolving. So let's all take this energy and just let it go. Just like physically take it and throw it in the fire, like Alfredo can. He's got the fire. Let's take that energy and like break
wrapping it up. Yeah.
Let's break through that energy. And then let's see what's underneath. What's underneath? What's the next level now? It's already lightening up. What's underneath that energy?
I get heart hurt.
Heart hurt.
Heart aching.
Yeah. Let's take that heart aching all together and just let it go. Disperse it, destroy it, light it like this. Very simple. What's underneath that heartache? What's underneath that heartache? It's already getting lighter. What's underneath that heartache now? Just shout out whatever comes to mind. What's underneath that?
It's like a throat block.
Throat block. Okay, cool. Let's take that throat block, all of us together, and disperse it, dissolve it, destroy it, uncreate it, burn it. Okay. What's underneath that throat? Yeah. What's underneath that throat? Fear. Let's take the fear. Let's take the fear and just destroy, uncreate, let it go. What's underneath the fear? So many layers.
Shame.
Yes. Nice.
Let's take that shame. 1, 2, 3, and destroy it. Let it go. What's underneath the shame? Let's go underneath the shame. Let's drop down.
Set ways and programs.
Let's take all those set ways and programs. 1, 2, 3. Destroy. What's underneath?
The ancestors.
Ancestors, yes, and not just the benevolent ones, isn't it? Now let's take that mishmash of ancestors and all the confusion and misidentification of what ancestors are and should be and not are, and let's take that 1, 2, 3 and destroy. Good. What's underneath that?
There's
The
a
marrow.
go ahead.
Oh, it's just the marrow,
Marrow.
the matrix.
Okay, let's take that matrix. Let's take that matrix and actually expand it, make it even bigger. Make this the biggest one. And before it pops, we're going to 1, 2, 3. And just see it. Little bits and pieces flying all over the place. Just like feathers turning into feathers. Good. We got something underneath that matrix?
I was going to say there's congestion in the clear audience that used to be so prominent with the deep ancestors here. So it got clogged. The clear audience got clogged.
Good. Let's take that. Let's take that. Clear audience congestion. 1, 2, 3. Good. Huh? Did you lose it or what happened? Something.
Wow.
I
The
changed
flow
to
is
my
returned.
phone. I changed to my phone, so
Okay. Oh, that's awesome.
let's,
It was us.
Finally, dramatic fashion.
let's see if I can change back here.
All right.
Really
No.
great.
My computer's still frozen up. Here we go. Where am I now? There we go. Sorry, y'all. My computer is still frozen. So I'll try to switch back when it's not.
Let's see if there's more layers, maybe.
It's giving us an opportunity.
Something
Just
popped with that
self-examine.
clear audience, though.
Yeah.
Do we want to break through more?
I think so. Yeah. Feels like it's still holding very, very strongly, and feels like there's like pillars that are going from deep into the earth. I think the bone marrow. Also, there's a space of that bone structure that goes deep, connecting with the ancestor flow.
So let's take all of that, package it up. And on 1, 2, 3, we're just going to let that go. 1, 2, 3. Yeah. Good. And let's see what's underneath that. What have we just unearthed by doing that? What's underneath that?
I'm
bit
seeing
more
all these
rubble.
connections. I'm
You
seeing
know.
these lines of connections.
Now,
Yeah,
are we
seeing more
willing
open.
to destroy those connections? Are we willing to destroy those connections in order to create new ones? Yes?
Can let the dam burst.
1, 2, 3. And all our entanglements with those connections are leaving, are dissolving as this dam is breaking wide, wide open. Cool. Do we have more underneath that? What comes up for people?
I feel things just coming back to circulation. Like
Mhm.
all the deposited minerals are just in the flow now. So they're just being redistributed.
Decalcification.
Mhm.
Mm.
Yes, my computer has finally unfrozen now.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Well done, gang.
I feel like all those connection
See more
points too
clear.
that we just let had to do with connection, like connections in the solar plexus area. That's how I was feeling it in my body when we released that. It was like, oh, thank goodness that entanglement in the solar plexus is like clear.
Yeah. So there's a lot of energetics that, there we go. I'm going to stop myself. Just there. Am I I'll mute this. Right click with that.
There you go. But you just have to unmute yourself now.
Now, there we go. Now I'm back. Well, wow. That was intense.
Whew.
How's everyone feeling there?
Great.
Great.
Yeah, definitely a release there for sure.
Yeah. This is the work
Yeah,
that we
feeling totally
do.
different.
This is the
Yeah.
work that we do together. Releasing, opening, and releasing. Allowing. Yeah. Great. So should I try again, y'all?
Keep going. Yes.
Should we keep going? Yes. Okay, here we go.
Yes.
Okay. So here now is that space between the root chakra and the sacral chakra, the cervical activation. We call on the goddesses Hathor and Isis and Nefertari, who was the only wife of a pharaoh whose pharaoh husband made a temple just for her. So now we're going to take a little journey down the Nile on the Dayubeya. As we journey on the river, the rock people hold space for us as we enter the temple at Philly, the Isis temple. And this temple is a divine feminine temple, a temple where they would birth babies, and where the goddess held space. This was also a temple that was moved. And this is the area where all the Andara stones, we found all the Andara stones. So now receive your sacral chakra recalibration. So as you breathe into the sacral, feel that space that was cleared, and now this birthing space that we can open up to. And then you sail down the Nile, let the river flow, flowing, flowing, open and flowing. We come to the temple at Kamombo. And this is the crocodile temple, where the crocodiles would roll in the silt of the Nile. The Nile would allow that space to be open. And so feel the energy around your belly button and allow that activation, recalibration as you dance with the crocodile, feeling your belly rubbing on the ground, opening up that hara space, that center of your body. Feel the silt of the Nile magnetically flowing through you, and feel the energy of the crocodile. And you can feel as you lay down on the earth and feel your belly to the earth. You can feel that heartbeat of Mother Earth coming through your belly, spreading out through your body. And as you feel the Nile flowing through you, you slide back into the water and wash yourself off. Now we enter the temple at Edfu. Edfu aligns with the vagus nerve. So as we've done the clearing, the Nile clearing out the old high dam energy, we can feel now that energy at Edfu that also celebrates the sacred marriage of the divine feminine and divine masculine. This temple was built in the later days during Greek times. And celebrating, we take the solar boats of Hathor and the solar boats of Horus as we celebrate their union, the union of the divine feminine and divine masculine. So feel that balance within you. Feel your body recalibrating, opening up to both sides of your energy. And feel that balance rippling through your nervous system, through your vagus nerve. And feel the light opening up and rippling through, cleaning and cleansing the vagus nerve, just like a pebble dropped in a pond ripples the water. And now we flow through the Nile, cleaning and cleansing the body, cleansing the lower chakras, allowing the sun to shine on our head, on our face, as the water flows all the way through the body, down to ground, allowing an open flow of energy. Now we enter the temple at Karnak, the Sekhmet temple, allowing the activation, the purification, as we walk through, seeing the obelisks and holding that power in the solar plexus chakra. And as the power is cleared, the solar plexus chakra is cleared, and feel the solar plexus activation, recalibration with Sekhmet. And feel that personal power, all of the control being dropped away, allowing the intention of your personal power in action to step forward with clarity and with light and with love and with joy as you walk forward in the world, creating in community and in love. Now we walk the avenue of the Sphinxes, the avenue of the Rams, to Luxor. And Luxor contains the energy of the ascended masters, the energy of the holy, of the holies. And as you feel the Andara activation in the center of the holy of the holies, can feel that space between the solar plexus and the heart, begin to pump, begin to move, feeling the ripples of energy moving through your body, just like the river on the Nile flows, the energy flows. Allow the open space now to again ripple, bringing you peace, bringing you clarity, just like the quiet on the river. Now we enter the Valley of the Kings. And here, as we walk through, we find rock guardians, rock people guiding us and guarding the Stargate. So the Stargate has been opened. We feel that Stargate opening in our hearts, between the solar plexus and the heart. This way that was closed has been repaired and is now open. And the sky touches the earth, and the dust swirls around, and the ancient river valley that was once flowing through the Valley of the Kings opens the way for us. The way to Abydos, where we can feel the energy of the heart. Abydos is where Isis brought all of the pieces of her love, Osiris, and put him back together. She and her sister Nephthys, with the great love that they had, put the 42 pieces of Osiris back together, including his spine. And now feel the spine recalibration from the base of the spine, from the Earth Star chakra below your feet, moving up your spine, the sacrum, the L4, L5, as you move up through the spine, you can feel the realignment and recalibration of your spine with each stone, with each placement. Osiris is regenerated with the greatest love of Isis. Can feel the heart activation of the Divine Mother, of the Divine Father, allowing the opening in your heart. And the fear and the doubt is swept away. And the action is opened upon you for your path and purpose. And you can disassemble and reassemble all things. All things are possible with the open heart. Feel the heartbeat of Mother Earth connecting to the heartbeat in your chest. Feel the soft opening and the joy that flows through the open heart. Let the sun shine upon your heart. Now we travel to the temple at Dendera, the temple of Hathor, the goddess from Sirius, who was an embodied stargate. And as Hathor's rattle shakes, the throat chakra recalibrates. You can feel the opening in your throat. And feel the energy releasing. The old doubt, the old words fall away. The new words of light and love and joy come through. As we take a walk through the stars, through the zodiac, we come to the ascension chakra at the base of your skull. And as you feel the spinal recalibration, you can feel the kundalini begin to rise from the base of your skull, base of your spine, through all of your chakras, flowing up your spine and electrifying the base of your skull, allowing the opening, allowing the recalibration. Feel the gift of life as it opens up through your skull. And as we're guided by the Sphinx, we open up into the third eye activation, the eye of Horus, the eye of Ra, the crystalline third eye, the crystalline pineal gland begins to recalibrate, spinning in your midbrain, opening up like a flowering pine cone. Crystalline, sweeping away the old filters to open up your third eye. So you begin to see more fully your multi-dimensions and all the activations that are available to you. And as we enter the Great Pyramid, we step into the Grand Gallery and we meet Thoth, who offers us our crown chakra activation and recalibration, allowing the encodement at the top of the skull to open up like a font of fire as your toroidal field flows outwards. The pyramids are stargates that open us up to our greatest potential. And as the light dances with the light of the shining full moon, we've gone moon to moon, allowing us to open our bodies, our minds, our spirits to a new activation, a new recalibration. And as the stars shine over our heads, the goddess Nut holds space for us, shining through the stars to give us love, to hold space for our immaculate journey on star system Earth. Just take a nice deep breath and come back to yourself. I'd like to just say special thanks to Melanie Kay and Sugar Queen, Hala Ahmed, for taking us on the journey, for making it happen for us. And yeah, thank you all for being here, for listening, for, sharing space and for, helping to clear out some of that stuck energy.
That was great,
just-
Tanya.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I really want to thank you because it's so lovely to see the trip through your lens and through your creativity and your knowing. And that was just a really beautiful way for my own integration. It's been, yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Yeah,
Mhm.
it was really, really, it was really a cultural immersion journey. And I just have to say, for anyone who wants to travel, you really need people who know what they're doing and who speak the language. So really thanks to Hala, Sugar Queen, because she really
Mhm.
she really did it. She really did it to it. She really held the space for us and guided us and really, I mean, like you were saying, when we were on that pyramid plateau, Melanie, this journey is a test of your, psychic boundaries. There's so much energy that comes at you
Mhm.
when you're here, and it's just almost like this really loose space of energetics. So you can get you can find what you get, right? It's like what you're open to is what you're going to receive.
Mhm.
So I think, I'm still recalibrating, to be honest, and I think this is going to be something that lasts, over a long period of time, right? The revelations and connections and openings, from this journey. I can't even, say what they'll be or what they are, right? I can, say like some things, I mean, maybe ask me in 6 months. Yeah. But I love to, open things up to questions because I think if anyone has questions about where we were or like what we did or anything interesting that they might want to do.
Yeah. How many days you were there in the trip? For how many
So,
days?
so I left, I'm from San Francisco, so it was a long flight. I flew from here to Paris on January 31st and then to Egypt. So it was like, I arrived at midnight the 2nd. And so then we started really our journey on the 2nd, which was the restart of the galactic 260-day cycle, the Red Magnetic Dragon Day, which is always one of my favorite days. Love the Dragon Days. And then I returned on the 16th. But really the tour was 2/2 through 2/15.
2
Yeah.
weeks. 2 weeks.
Red Magnetic Dragon Day was on the 3rd. So we had an arrival day on the 2nd because that was intentional. So we had all 13 of the days in the wave spell, the dragon wave spell was part of the tour. And the arrival day was the day before and the departure day was the day after. So really it was 15 days. But those 2 days on the book ending weren't active days.
Mhm,
And
mhm.
are you planning to do it like every year?
I'm actually thinking about running one in May, which is crazy because it's so close. So I have to make a decision on that this week and then start sharing about it. And if not, we're going to do something in October or November.
I'm looking forward. I feel like your energy making me feel confident about it because that's one of my bucket list to make it to one of those 3 to 8, and I feel your energy and Tanya, of course, like a supporting energy, like it's very smooth and easy to navigate it. And because there's so many story about Egypt, and I know I'm looking forward to connect with my past life on that places. But I'm looking forward for something that is flexible that, I don't have to come in with a huge bag of $10,000 to make that trip. And I feel that you and Tanya are very, very supporting and I'm looking forward. I'm going to open my vortex to bring that to my reality.
I love
All
that.
right. All
Woohoo!
right.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's there's a lot that we didn't, that we didn't see, but it was still, I felt like we did so much, right? I don't think we could I don't think we could have done more in the time that we had. But easily, easily this could be a month-long trip,
Yeah.
y'all.
Yeah, because the physical body need, time to swallow between one experience and the next one. And it's almost the energy where there, it's like need like a time to adjustment, to absorb it and then get for the next one and the next one, the next one. I can imagine that you have to take like a time to, to take just like a release and and come back for the next one. That's the way I feel it, because it's a love for our physical body.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that, one of the things that I had dinner with two of the people we traveled with the other night with Lainey and William, and we were just sort of debriefing and talking about, like what worked. And one of the things we all sort of would have liked was to have a little more time to just like explore some of the areas where we were staying, just sort of like the city, take a little walk, walk around and just like be in the space, right? Be in the modern space, right? So we did the ancient spaces, but the modern spaces we didn't really, stand in or walk through or, sit in. One of the things that really struck me about being in Luxor, we stayed at this place called the Winter Palace in Luxor, and it was pretty much due south from the center of the temple in Luxor, from that Holy of Holies. And there was a ripple of energy that was coming out of that temple that made this whole place feel like we were on a boat. It was like these waves of energy that were rippling outward, right? And we're walking, we get to this hotel and it's like, wait, am I still on the boat? What's going on? And even sleeping at night at this hotel, it was almost like this rolling, rolling wave energy.
Yeah.
Which I found really interesting.
Maybe you experience different dimension while you are sleeping in the hotel become the boat, because you are experiencing different dimension at that time.
That's interesting that you say that, because that's where I had a visitation in the middle of the night from Thoth.
Yes. That's very cool.
The day before
Yeah,
we
I was
went. The day before we went to Hathor's temple.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I had a two. Oh, go
Mhm.
ahead. I had a two-part question. I was kind of curious because I know like the energies. Every time I feel the energies of those Egypt pictures you would send, they were always like super deep. I'm like, oh my goodness. So I was curious, like, what was probably the most challenging part, like energetic wise, for both Melanie and Tanya? Like, what was like the most challenging part of the journey? And on top of that, like, I was also curious how the dream time is, because every time you sleep in a different place, it's always like it's an experience, but just asking both of y'all.
For me, the dreams were out of this world. I mean, just so extraordinary. And we would go, I had a dream the first night that I stayed at the Great Pyramids Hotel, which is pretty much right across the street from the pyramids. I had a dream that Horus came to me in my dreams and like gave me this, I don't know, like multifaceted diamond and inserted it into my third eye. And every night after that, it was like the hieroglyphics are almost like a different language. They're a different language, obviously, but they're a star language as well. And I could see similarities, with some of the ancient Atlantean language and the Syrian texts. And you know, so the dream time was really interesting, and it was like there was instruction and there was activation and, you know, all different types of weird connections with all different types of people from my life and from like media. It was really interesting, the dream time, for sure.
What are your challenges, Tanya? Was the biggest
I
challenge?
think for me, the most challenging thing were that first day where we were touring the tomb of Unas. And there's a huge group of people mobbing around this tomb in sort of like the middle of the desert. And we had to go down into this little hole, you know, this hole, right? And when you're going into the pyramids, there's not a lot of space, right? You have to crouch down. And this was the first one that we went in, and it actually wasn't very big compared to some of them. But when you're going down into a hole under, you know, 1,000, you know, how many tons of rock? I don't know, you know, with like a lot of people, and it's just, if you're claustrophobic, it's not easy. So I think going down into that first pyramid was challenging because the energy felt really dense. But then Darshur, the pyramid at Darshur, was really, really challenging. And this is a very long shaft that you have to go down inside. And Melanie went first, and then I went, and then Lainey went, and William, who was also on our trip, he didn't want to go in. And Lainey got about a quarter of the way down and went out. And this was a pyramid that was built by Snefru, and it was commissioned by Snefru as his tomb. And he, you know, employed all kinds of architects and builders for this, but it wasn't at the same angle as the Great Pyramid. It's at a little bit of a different angle. And so the descent was much more tight, much more kind of claustrophobic. And I got about halfway down and I'm like, oh, hell no. And thank God Melanie said, don't feel from the bottom, don't feel like you have to come down here. And I'm
pretty
like, okay,
intense.
thank you. So I went out and I ended up walking around the pyramid and realizing that the king, you know, was a master in dark magic, and he had created bindings on everyone who had worked on the construction. He had energetically bound in this sort of like void space. And so these earthbound souls were just like bound up and being, you know, tortured. And so, you know, this is one of my specialties on binding earthbound souls. So as I was going around, you know, I was, you know, cutting away the bindings and set up almost like a little stargate to help clear the bindings so they could walk through. And then they were just, you know, crossing over, you know, and there was a couple of hundred people that were bound up in that space, and including a soul shard from one of the people we were traveling with. So I thought that was interesting. You know, he was an architect and had worked on a number of different projects in Egypt. So, I mean, I think that pyramid was really like, that first day and that particular pyramid was the most challenging, I think, for me. Do you want to share your experience in that particular pyramid?
Well, I'll share my challenges with Egypt, and that my challenges came before and after the tour. It wasn't during the tour. It was actually that I had worked with 2 people to design the tour that 3 people actually to design the tour that I wanted. And then I had met Hala. She was like my sister 4 years ago when I was in Egypt, and I met her knowing she lived and worked on the Giza Plateau and had her own business. But for some reason, I didn't think that she was quite in the right space to hold the space for this particular group that was brewing. So I had worked and contracted with these other people. And when I got there 8 days before the tour, I started to realize that the something wasn't safe about the way. And then a person walked out, and I was like, oh my gosh. So I had to the tour itinerary didn't change, but all the leadership in terms of who I was partnering with changed and shifted, and it was all for the best. But I think it was very taxing, and there was, I think what I was telling Tanya about, I really feel like Egypt is a PhD in psychic boundaries. I got my major initiation before the tour started around that. So there's a lot of smoke and mirrors. There's a lot of karma on the land and then people. How many times has that land been taken over and, subjugated power and blah, 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 blah. So that was all living and breathing still in the culture. So navigating that as a foreigner is tricky. And thank God my sister Hala, really, she just came through and was direct and clear and what I needed to create something powerful that can last and continue on. And her connections are incredible. And the people that she works with are the people that are also clear and direct and not caught up in those shadow games. But yeah, that was the challenge. And then, afterwards was also just wrapping things up and trying to close those loops karmically with the people that I had opened with before the tour started. So there was some closure that needed to happen and some interesting, I want to definitely a karmic relationship with this guy who was showing up, and we remembered each other. He was definitely a black magic practitioner, and we actually both were able to acknowledge it and clear it. And still I can, he's reaching out to me, how are you doing, sister? So it's really powerful, the work that can be done there.
Yeah.
Remembering.
I mean, and that's it,
Awesome.
there's just layers and layers and layers and layers and layers and layers and layers, that of the buildings themselves, but also of the land
And and the culture too.
and the culture. Yeah. Yeah.
What was the most magical thing that happened to you while you were there?
Well, I think being on the Nile was very, very magical for me. Just being able to float on the river and travel this energy pathway that, millions and upon millions of people have, lived and thrived. And I mean, there's just such magic in the waters there. And just being able to, I mean, I think the Isis temple at Philae was really, really magical. And that was one of the temples that was actually moved and built in, sort of like the Greco-Roman style. So it was built later, but there was some real beautiful energy that was energetically between those two dams, and I found it interesting that that's where all the Andara stones were found also. And so that was always, anytime crystals are involved, it's always very magical for me. And I think also that last day inside the Great Pyramid, we went in later in the day. And so being inside the King's Chamber, when there weren't very many people there, was really cool. And I had a crystal that I brought inside the pyramid, and I was holding it to the walls. And inside that King's Chamber, the walls vibrate. You can put your hands on the wall and you can feel
it's a battery.
that energy. So I charged up my crystal with it, and it still is vibrating in exactly the same way. So, and it's tuning up a number of my other Arkansas quartz crystals in that same energetic vibration. So that was really cool, I thought. Yeah.
Oh, Tanya.
That's awesome.
I got a couple questions, but remember you said you were going to take something there to leave?
I took a lot of different things.
Oh, okay.
I gave offerings at pretty much every place we went. Yeah.
Oh yeah, it was so great. Tanya had these black stretch pants on with the side pockets, and she was just locked and loaded with her crystals on each side. I was always joking around. She was like Lara Croft, but instead of guns, she had crystals in her both sides of her legs.
Oh my gosh. I have a question about, and I don't know if you could do this, but for some reason, can you describe the smell of being inside those pyramids and those other things that you went inside, as opposed to what it smelled like outside? I understand like the poop and all that, but like that smell, like, does it trigger something for you?
I was surprised at, how things didn't really smell. Like in a couple of the temples we went in, so a lot of these temples are built right near the Nile. And so over time, there was flooding that would come in and, kind of like erase the paint. Right. And then they would get filled with sand and then people would live in them. So, in the Hathor temple at Dendera in particular, there's the sea, it was black, right, before they started restoring it from the smoke. So you could smell just like a tiny remnants of that. And in some of them you could smell like the mold.
Yeah.
In like the Osiris temple, I think I started sneezing because I think there was a lot of mold in there. But there were also bats living in there.
Whoa.
Some of
Right.
them.
So yeah. So it didn't really, I was surprised at the neutrality of the smell overall though.
Wow, that's cool. Yeah, I was feeling through your whole meditation, like I was feeling like the word preservation, like preserving, like how they preserve those beautiful and the carvings. How, my goodness, like what did they use? What tools did they use? And did they have, I mean, some of them were so tall.
Yeah.
How did they get up that high? Did they have scaffolding? Did they go on each other's shoulders? I don't know.
Maybe they levitated.
Maybe
I don't
they
know.
levitated. But do you know what kind of tools that were used, or I don't know?
No, they don't really
Yeah.
know.
Oh, okay.
They don't really know.
Yeah.
There's not really documentation about that. There's some documentation about like on the walls, like in the storytelling, in some of the hieroglyphics, but they never really showed like, oh, these are the tools they use to, carve into the stone.
What was interesting too is like the difference between the artwork from the older temples and the hieroglyphs there, and then when the Greeks and Romans came and they were building the temples in their own aesthetic, they were still using the same iconography and the hieroglyphs and the style of it changed. There were like more details in the physicality of the beings. So there was belly buttons and like little, real bellies and the roundness because that was the aesthetic in the North Mediterranean or above the Mediterranean at that time, was that they were really painting with the attention to the detail of the body. Whereas it was much more important about the spirit of the nature of what was being expressed in the hieroglyphs before that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I thought that was really interesting too.
Yeah, that was beautiful.
I love the Hathor temple activation personally. That was the most magical day for me. Because it was really that you got to go under, and that's where there was this incredible Kundalini activation underneath. And what they called them crypts, but they weren't crypts. They were like ascension activation places. I know that because then you could go and you could climb up through the second floor, and then there's the top floor. And so there was like another whole thing where it was on the ceiling, and there was another place of like activation above, and then you could go up to the top and they had like an observatory place above the temple. And I know that was a more modern temple than the ancient temple, but the site itself was the same site that the ancient Hathor temple must have been, because it was such a huge stargate. And I have an incredible picture of the sun where there's this feather star being that popped up into the field, and we were laying on our backs on the top of this like temple. We were the only people up there. It was a temple that's not very often visited because it's a little off the path, the tourist track. So that felt really super special. It looks like a phoenix kind of flying out of the sun in the image, and there's a spiral going around the sun, and then this feather star being. And I just remember being like, I can't believe my camera captured that, because that's what I was feeling.
Yeah. And that was an incredible activation day, you know, for me as well. And that temple was built at the time of Cleopatra VII, which is the Cleopatra that we know. So, you know, much later in Egyptian history, you know, and what I think that's like the 21st dynasty, right? Whereas like the pyramid at Saqqara and the pyramids at Dashur were built in maybe like the 5th dynasty. So much earlier in the history of Egypt. But again, you know, Egyptologists attribute the Great Pyramid to Cheops and the Middle Pyramid to Khufu, right? Which is like 2,500 years ago. But, you know, that's, you know, we don't really know. We
So
don't
much
really
further
know.
back they go. Yeah.
Oh, do you know, Tanya, and when Emmy was mentioning about the material, for me, I wasn't surprised to find out about what material they use, because I was remember when Andrew was mentioned that, you know, by the time when those pyramids was bringing, it was to a stabilization of the planets. It was a different technology and different civilization and more advanced, you know, human or beings that was doing that. I mean, there's nothing here in this planet that had those kind of material. And it's something like we just have to remember we were there too. And then, you know, just after it was the Lemurian that he said, or Atlantean, when the down of those civilizations that those pyramid was you know, bring into the planet to balance the planet, something like that. I don't remember exactly how he explained it now. However, we know that those materials not here from this planet that it was bring in.
Yeah. You know, I mean, again, right, there's not documentation, but we know it's much older. You know, things are much more mysterious than there is proof for.
But there is that one Ben pyramid at the museum that is definitely proven to be meteorite, space metal material, that it's just incredible. And it looks, and they have a theory that it was one of the caps on the tops of the pyramids. So that's an interesting thing to go see when you're there.
Yeah.
But anyways, I have to go, everybody. I'm so grateful to have been in this space. Thank you so much, Martina, for holding space for us to remove that block, and Tanya for your incredible presentation. I'll hope to jump on again soon.
Thank you, dear. Catch up with you soon.
Thank you.
Thanks, Melanie,
Love
for
you.
being the catalyst.
Thank you, everyone.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Bye.
So I've got a question, Tanya, in
Yeah.
terms of, so I understand that you, in everywhere you went, you had a meditation and activation. Okay. All right.
Well, I mean, sort of.
Sort of. Okay.
It was we had a tour guide who was taking us through, right? So Hala took us through, you know, Giza, that's where she grew up. And then when we went to Aswan, there was another tour guide that she worked with who traveled with us, right? Who took us around the temples and then allowed us time, right, to spend after. And so we sort of would each sort of do our own activations, and in some spaces we did a meditation and you know, shared the community space like that.
Right.
But not everywhere. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and my other question would be, since you've been back, and now there's this reintegration phase and everything, but very practical, how has your life changed very practically by having been there?
I mean, my life is usual, but it doesn't feel like it should be. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It feels like I'm still, you know, still processing, and I've been sorting through the photos and, talking to people about, about the trip. And I don't know, it just seems like there's a next level that is like open, like has opened,
Mm.
right? But I don't even like know where that is or how that is, or like how to integrate that or express it in a way. So there's a lot more processing and recalibration to do. Yeah.
Fabulous. I suppose as long as the opening is there and you're not closing it, it's all good. Just keep it open.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. Keep that Stargate open,
Yeah.
right? And it almost seems like there's there's energy to integrate, right, into life, into business, but there's also, I think, an expanded awareness,
Mhm.
right, that I've been working with, right? The dream time has been really interesting, and I think also working with these stones has been really, really interesting, right? It's almost like they have brought into my home space, right, where just kind of a different energy, more multi-dimensional energy, I guess, if that's even possible. It's like my house grid got upgraded. Everything is, all of the codes that were encoded into the crystals that I brought and then brought back are sort of like rippling through, the house and my life. And yeah, so I mean, I'm not even sure where those ripples are going to stop or where they're going to, complete.
Yeah. Have you had
Yeah.
any backlash being back?
Yeah, I fell down my stairs,
How did
actually.
you- Oh,
Yeah. Yeah. So that was an interesting setback. I didn't injure myself badly, but I was very bumped and bruised, and I'm still moving slowly. That was like a week and a half ago. So
Interesting. Okay.
yeah. Yeah. It feels like I've had definitely like communications with the goddesses, with Isis, with Hathor. I'm working a lot with them. I've been working with the energy of Horus. But yeah, it seemed like maybe there were also some things that were attached into my energy field previously that I'm now more aware of and able to energetically move more easily. So yeah, I mean, it's just layers and layers and layers on peeling and rebuilding.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's almost like, taking out the foundation stones and rebuilding the foundation stones in a way. Yeah.
Beautiful. Well, thank you very much.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think we're all doing that though, right? In so many different ways. And I know that all of us here, are rebuilding, right? Taking down what's old and building the new, recreating this Garden of Eden on earth. Yeah.
I mean, you said something. I think there's a lot of dissolving and destruction at the moment, or a letting go of this, of all the distortions. The rebuilding itself is a bit still in the uncertainty. You said that, isn't it? I think I certainly feel like that. I know there's a whole chapter that is closing, literally closing, and it's not even, don't even need to go back and open it, because it's like it's integrated now, and there's this new space that's opened up, and that's completely undefined. And it's really a matter of, well, I enjoy that kind of thing. I enjoy that, working with nothing,
Right.
but it's a huge space that has opened, I think.
Yeah, I totally agree. And it feels like, oh, you start to build some foundation stones and then you're like, oh, no, that's not right. I'm going to take those out. Right. Okay, now I'm going to start to build some more foundations. So, oh, no, that's not working either. So there's this energy of creation, destruction, creation, destruction, creation, destruction, right? And when is the next thing really gonna be set? I don't know. We're in this really like fluid space right now. I really feel that.
I don't know how you guys feel. I'm actually feeling in a way that the next level of manifestation is going to be very different to the way we have created until now. You know, it's almost like, you know, I keep on talking about this instant manifestation, that. And of course, it's not going to be just like that, but there is an element of that, which we mustn't close ourselves off, you know. And I think you said it's like we can't go back to normal. We will never go back to normal. There's no such thing. And I think the worst we can do, especially after such an amazing experience, is trying to be normal. No. It's almost like, you know, you falling down the stairs is something trying to get you back down to earth. Okay, come down. Couple steps down now. Now here we're here. No, I'm not.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So that kind of thing. Amazing.
Those big trips that take like, you know, 5 years or a few years to like figure out what actually happened. It feels like you picked up like 1 billion photons of light, like a magnet that just attached to your outer aura, like now, like part of your 1 degree of separation, and they're on the edge of the unknowingness. Excuse me. And now they're just trickling in, and like you're getting rid of the ones you want and taking in the ones that you do want, and maybe you, like you said, you do want them and don't want them, but they're just all these new particles of light have just attracted themselves to you, and they're just taking their sweet time because they want to, you know, build that foundation the way that you want it to be, the shell for the next, in the next 5 years, part of the ongoing process.
Yeah. Yeah. It's definitely an interesting, you know, shift in perspective.
And I love your pictures, and I love you telling the stories, because when you're speaking, and especially your presentation was so much fun.
Oh, thank you.
It made me feel like
That
I
was
was
amazing.
like I could feel the water flow, I could feel the rocks, I could hear the air. And that was just such a magical feeling. So thanks for sharing all that.
Yeah, you're welcome. Yeah, it was so interesting because I hadn't really ever thought, oh, I must go to Egypt. I must go to Egypt. But then when Melanie was talking about it, I'm like, yeah, I'm supposed to go. I'm there. I'll be there. Just let me know when you're going, you know. And you know, I had come across a couple different like past lifetimes from Egypt, and my past lifetime regressions and my soul shard integrations, and you know, it didn't really have a lot of lifetimes that I remembered there. But when I got there, it just felt so familiar, you know. It felt like, oh, I'm home. I've always lived, you know, I've always been here, right? There was that sort of feeling, just like the familiarity of the land and the earth, and like just the love of the river. You know, I mean, I always love being around water, but that love, you know, the love and the familiarity of the river Nile was just like, wow, this just feels, you know, like home. And I did have some memories, like walking around the Dendera temple. I felt like, oh, I had a memory of being a small child who lost her mother and being turned over to the temple and having my head shaved and like marched down into the purification pond and dunked, and okay, now you're an acolyte, right, at the Hathor temple. And I couldn't tell like what the space-time period was, but you know, those memories came up. And as I was in the middle pyramid on the Giza plateau, that one right there, in the sarcophagus on the inside, I went in and I was standing there, and I had a memory of, you know, being laid down inside that sarcophagus and being covered, you know, to go through a 3-day initiation inside that pyramid. So, you know, the sarcophagus is in there. I would say they're not tombs, because I had the memory of going through an initiation. in there. So those were, two memories that came up very strongly for me as I was on that journey.
It's almost like, you know, there's a new vocation coming through. I can see you as a tour guide, not
Mhm.
just there, you know,
Yeah.
going far beyond, you know, the healing, what you've done and everything. You're doing that by putting tours together.
Yeah.
I can totally see you do that. And then afterwards, do exactly what you've done for us here now, put it together, you know, to bring people to come on tours with you. I can totally see that.
Yeah. I think that sounds really fun.
That's your presentation is like, here, fishy, fishy, fishies.
Yeah.
Come on. You know how good it is. It's so
Reel
just,
it in, baby.
you see it's like, damn, I want that. I want that. Kind of.
It's the love you
It's
have.
very nice.
The love you have for it, and the detail you go into, and the capacity to maintain the information. Yeah, all of that together is a perfect tour guide. A tour guide it's not the nice word for it, but you know what I mean. It's like tour guide with a difference. It would be with a difference. So it would be, I can see it as a very untouristy, you know, with the emphasis of healing, with the emphasis of meditation, activation, and all that.
Sure. Yeah, it was good. It was good. And it was, nice to travel with Melanie, who has that, and she teaches Kundalini yoga. So we did yoga, a number of days in the morning, and she sort of led us through some journey, like remembrance and reintegrations, which were really helpful.
Is it your first trip over to Egypt?
That's
Tanya?
my first time. Yeah, my first time going to Egypt. Yes.
You capture really, really like a plasma. I'll put it over you. Wow. It's amazing. Yeah, that. Yeah.
And it's just so interesting. I just feel like whatever you're ready for, you're gonna get, right? There's gonna be stuff, right, that comes through. There's gonna be stuff that makes you uncomfortable, and that scares you, right, and that enlivens you and enlightens you. And I mean, but that's any journey. You could go to any city in the world and have a magical experience if you're wanting it, if you're ready for it, if you're open for it. Or you could have a total crap experience too, if you have a bad attitude about stuff. So yeah.
I got two questions.
Uh-huh.
What was it hot?
No, it was cold. And in fact, I had purchased one of these long down coats that I'm like, oh, well, how can I'll wear it on the plane. It will be like a sleeping bag. It's got a hood. It folds down into a little pouch. And then I just fold it up, and I brought a pillowcase because I'm very particular about my pillow sleeping. I said, I can just roll it up and put it in my pillowcase and sleep on it as a pillow. And I wore that coat almost every day because it was effing freezing. It was like here, the weather has been the same here in San Francisco, getting down to like, Fahrenheit 39 to 45 at night. And then in Cairo, it was colder. So it was maybe like during up into the 50s during the day. A couple days we got like 60, 65. And then when we went south, it was a little bit warmer. So really cold at Lake Nasser, but then like Aswan and Luxor were warmer. I think one day we got up to 80 when we were in Luxor, the Luxor area. Yeah, but otherwise it definitely got cold at night. I would go at a time that that would be warmer. Yeah, but also, it was nice not to be out in the desert with the sun beating on you, on some of those days. It was nice that it wasn't.
That's hard.
Yeah.
Like it's real. Like I have a harder time with the heat, and this is hard. And then my second question is, what was the favorite food that you had while you were out there?
So the Egyptian food was excellent. All the food that we had was really, really good. So they would do like baba ganoush. The salads are cucumber and tomato and parsley. And sometimes you'll get some cabbage or some lettuce in there. The food on the boat was really, really good. The chef on the boat was, overfed us. So like grilled meats. He made this really good fried fish the first day we were on the boat, which was amazing, really delicious. They did moussaka, right? There's this sort of soup that's like tomato and potato and squash that they serve with rice. Rice is served with every meal. And there wasn't as much hummus as there was just like straight tahini. And so they would use that as like an accompaniment, like put it on rice. And there's this, we called it slimy soup, but there's this herb they call molokea, which it's like a dried herb, and then they put it in hot water. And it's almost like if you eat okra, it's like the texture of okra. But the Egyptians would just dip the bread and put that on rice and dip the bread and eat it. And we were all like, ooh, that's no thanks. It was a little, tried it, of course. We had stuffed pigeon one day. That was interesting.
Wow.
But, a lot of baba ganoush, really good pickles. You couldn't get good hot sauce. They only had like a Heinz ketchup sort of hot sauce. We had omelets every day. They served some things in clay. They would bake things in the oven in clay jars and clay covers, almost like Dutch ovens. And so we had some really good fish that was baked in, some of the clay jars. That was really good. And we went to a spice shop. There's certain spices, like the food is, it varies. Food always varies per chef, but you don't have the diversity of flavors that you have here in the States, right? So you have like spices that you can buy for fish, spices like a spice mix for meat and chicken, a spice mix for lamb, right? A spice mix for vegetables, a spice mix for your pickles, right? And so they did like pickled eggplant, they did pickled grape leaves or some kind of leaf that was then stuffed with rice. Overall, the food was really good. And one night when we were in Luxor, we're like, everybody just wanted a cheeseburger, so we're like, oh, there's a pub. We'll go to the pub. And so we walked to the pub, and across the street from the pub was this 5-star hotel. And there were some people staying at the hotel, I guess, across the street, sitting next to us. And William said, hey, what's good? What did you like? What did you order? And they said, oh, the Egyptian platter is excellent. You have to get that. And we're all like, oh no, we've been eating Egyptian food every single day. We all wanted just a cheeseburger, That's why we went to the pub. But I can see how it would be very easy not to immerse yourself in the culture, right? If you were staying at like a westernized hotel and eating at a pub across the street every day because you didn't know where to go. And one of the things Peter, our guide who we picked up in Aswan, was talking about was that Egyptians, they don't really, 70% Muslim, about 30% Christian, but people don't really go out for dinner. They don't really go out to eat. It's like the restaurants are for, people who are working or, for tourists, really. So I thought that was interesting. It's like, yeah, an Egyptian man wouldn't really take his wife out for dinner because she would be cooking at home. We did have Hala. We went to Hala's house for dinner the last night we were there, and her mother cooked everything, and the food was just the best that we'd had. Yeah, these little like phyllo, almost like spanakopita, except with ground spice meat in them. I could have eaten like a whole bucket of that. Really good.
The food's making so many more memories in my mind. There's so many. Catching it, stuffing it, cooking it, eating
I've
it.
been trying to make halwa. The Egyptian halwa is different than the Indian halwa. It has sesame, like tahini, and powdered sugar and dried milk, right? Except I didn't have dried milk, so I used protein powder. And then I used honey instead, but I had ground sesame seeds. So I'm on my second batch. We'll see how it turns out. It's waiting in the refrigerator now. I used the black sesame for this one. But that halwa, they serve like, a plate of it. So for breakfast, you get falafel. You get some really good, like fresh goat cheese. You get maybe like cucumbers and tomatoes. You can get it like egg, right? And then bread. Bread is served with every meal. And if you're Egyptian, you just show your Egyptian ID, and there's I guess a governmental program that gives people bread, and you get 10 pieces of bread, which are like pitas. I thought that was interesting.
Did you
Lots
bring
of
anything
horses.
special? Oh, did you bring anything back that you thought, I need this?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
did. I brought these, amazing Andara crystals
Oh
back.
yeah. And what
Oh,
are the
wow.
Andara crystals too? What are those?
So these are
Pretty.
so the
Yeah.
Andara pretty.
Yeah.
The Andaras are energetically charged photonic light crystals. That the story that was told to Melanie by some Andarans at a Star Knowledge conference once was that it was an energetic that was galactic and directed to Earth, right? It was part of a system that was falling apart. And so the Andarans took this energy from this planetary system that was being decreated and it was cast by the unicorns into the core of Earth Mother. And then the energy bubbled up through the volcanic systems, right? And so you can see this interesting structure in these stones. I mean, it's hard to see in this one, but there's almost like
Blue.
like
blue.
bubbles. There's
Yeah.
almost like bubbles inside of it. These weird sort of like, yeah, and you can feel the energy of it. Like this one, I call it the heart of Isis because it feels like a heartbeat. It has a heartbeat, and so that I brought a bunch of those back. Oh, I have
Are they
some.
just all purple? Are they all
No,
purple?
there's
Oh.
so in the chakra
Oh.
activations, I showed like a number of the Andar. So there's a blue one.
Colors are
Oh.
amazing. And that's
They're-
all
Those.
They're
natural
just
Space glass.
energetically, it's like space glass. It really is. They're just
Yeah.
It's kind of like
energetically
Moldavite, but not quite.
extraordinary. Yeah. So I brought some of that back. One of the things that they do with coffee, they make like herbal, like spiced coffee. So one of the first nights we were there, I guess it was the night we were out on the lake. We went to this place to eat dinner, and we had a ceremony, and they had a fire, and they made the coffee right there. They would take a little pot and put the raw coffee beans on the fire and roast them. And then he had dried ginger, and he put the roasted coffee beans and the dried ginger in a mortar and pestle and ground it and made us
Oh,
all
hell yeah.
little shots of coffee. That was the most delicious, like digestif with all of that ginger. But they have coffee they call gebena. They call it gebena in some places and another thing in another place. But I got some of this coffee at the spice shop. So it's the ground coffee, and then it has cinnamon, cardamom, anise, ginger, and something else. But it's so delicious. So I have one of these.
But it's like really smooth on the stomach too, right?
Yeah, it's just delicious. So I have this,
Golly.
the Nespresso machines that has the little pods, and I have, one of the little like things that you can put your own coffee in. So I've been making that coffee, but it's not as good as the one that the guy made on the fire that night. That was just like, oh my God, that was maybe like the best thing that we had.
I want to try that. That's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, just take some ginger, take some powdered ginger and cinnamon, and like if you're making your coffee, just put it in there, let it steep.
Oh.
Really good.
Oh yeah, I'm inspired by that.
Yeah, I suggest you experiment with it. You know,
How
grind
afraid
up
are you?
those spices in a coffee grinder.
Yeah.
I
You
just
got a
love
fire
coffee.
right
It's just
there.
like, oh yeah, I put it out. I'm closing the ceremony
Oh.
right here. That sounds awesome because yeah, coffee is always like it's more of acidic, you know. So with the added ginger and the spices, I could just imagine like so much nicer on the stomach, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they drink everything really sweet. The Egyptians have a tendency to drink everything really sweet. So when you go into a shop, they'll say, "Can I offer you a welcome drink?" Right? And it's what did they say? It's not an option, right? You can choose what you want, but your accepting of the drink is not an option. So they'll serve you Egyptian tea with mint tea, coffee, or hibiscus, right? And the hibiscus is usually served cold and it's frothy. I don't know how they get it frothy. I got some hibiscus flowers from my co-op when I got home, and I've been making like make a pitcher of tea. And I actually prefer it hot. So I've been drinking it hot, but you can serve it cold too. And it's really good served with some soda water, and you can mix it, as a mixer for a cocktail too. Add a little gin to that. And it's pretty good. Yeah. But then they put like sugar, right, and everything. They make all of the coffees or teas really sweet. So if you don't want sugar, you have to say no sugar, please. Yeah, thought that was interesting. We went to an Egyptian cotton factory that had, beautiful, just beautiful long, Egyptian dresses and short ones, that were patterned. So we had the opportunity to do that. We went to a papyrus place where they show you how they make the papyrus. So that was cool. I got a painting of the Egyptian calendar, which looks very similar to the Mayan calendar or the Aztec calendar. To me, that looks like the multidimensional blueprint. Went to a market, marketplace. It's pretty busy. Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah. It's definitely a journey, a cultural immersion journey. Yeah, quite enjoyable. But, of course, traveling
from
is always challenging. Yeah. Yeah. So next time we'll just all go together.
Yeah. Tour
Journey.
guide, put it together.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Comments? Insights?
I guess one insight, like when I was feeling the air, like I could feel like it was like just feeling, how it's like when you're telling the stories, you can feel like that electric hum in the air sometimes. And in my brain, I could see the waveform a little bit. And it was really very high intensity, low frequency, like a delta wave. But then it had spikes every now and then that just spiked, just push things in, but it's just really low frequency, high intensity, like packed. And then just the odd crazy intense push in every once in a while.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I would say that's what that's what it feels like. There's areas that you go through that are like quiet, right? And deep. And then all of a sudden it will be like, what?
Yeah, like a constant stream coming in, a constant, intense, strong stream, just with spikes. It just, oh yeah.
Mm. Yeah, thanks for that insight. It's always interesting to see, I mean, for me, there's just so much that I'm processing right around the whole thing. So it's interesting to feel that reflected back.
And at the start, I thought right away, there's all the sand blowing around. Like you have all these electrified particles blowing around, just electrifying the air all around you. Which is a lot of the sand is like the same materials that the pyramids are made out of.
Exactly. I mean,
So it's
there's
just like,
quartz. I picked up stones from everywhere I went. And so I have like pieces of calcite, I have pieces of alabaster. There's alabaster everywhere. I mean, look around, right, on the ground, and there's just rocks everywhere, right? There's
Mm.
sand, but there's rocks everywhere. It's not like, well, I mean, it's like going anywhere where there's sand, where you're going to have the particulates that the sand is constructed from, right? That just grinds down over time.
And when you say you charged your stone against the wall of the pyramid, I could feel it.
Yeah.
Super, super strong. And I could feel it when you brought it home, and your other stones felt it when you told that part of the story. Like
Yeah.
you really, that was the first for me, actually feeling the stones store energy, or not store the energy, but match the vibrational frequency, and then be in resonance with it. So that was cool too.
Yeah, it's interesting. I have a lot of quartz from Arkansas here in my house, and some of the stones are taking the vibrational resonance, and some are like, no, we have our own programming that will, that we're going to hold. So I found that really interesting too, that some are like, yeah, sign me up, right? And others are like, no, that's okay. Right. So the ones that are getting the energetics of it are getting the energetics of it, right? And the ones that have their own, path and purpose and, programming are keeping that. Yeah.
Like the story is absolutely in that stone now.
Definitely.
And it's kind of neat with those stones. They do not, like, I'm feeling it. And like the waveform again, there's no spikes whatsoever in those stones. They come out at like a nice even frequency consistently. They don't stop. But there's no whoop, whoop. It's just kind of, it's gentle. It's nice.
Yeah.
Kind of calming.
I mean, that's, one of the things I've learned about the crystals is that they all have their own idea of how they want to work. It's like working with these Andaras, and back to working on clients in person, even just like thinking, oh, I'll use, one of these Andaras in the person's energy field. And they tell me whether they want that or not, right? They'll let me know, no, I don't want to be used that way. Right. And even this crystal is like, no, I don't want to be used that way. Right. You have to use me in these, these other ways. And they'll tell me, they'll show me. Like some of the smaller ones are like, yeah, use me, over here, you have to use me for this person. Right. But not all of them are wanting to work like that. So
you associated the purple one and the green one to male and female.
yeah.
Where did you get that association from?
So that's just insight that's come through, right, for the heart chakra. The balancing in the heart chakra, the divine feminine in the heart always shows up as pink for me, and the divine masculine shows up as green. Okay. Right. And if you think about, like, if you've seen a chakra color chart, oftentimes the heart is shown as green, right? Where the solar plexus is yellow, the throat is blue. But for me, the pink comes through so strongly for the heart. Right. But to me, it's like the balance, right? That balance of the masculine and the feminine energy.
Okay. I'm surprised
Okay.
you found so many of those beautiful stones, you know, with all the tourists there, you know. You would
I
think
was
that they
I
were
was shocked. I was shocked at the amount that were just so you walk into the through the gate at the Philly temple and you go down a sort of like a long embankment to boats, and then you have to take a boat to the temple because it's between the dams. And there were vendors inside on these embankments. I mean, like 20 different vendors with piles and piles of these stones. I was like, oh, you know, just about had like a, you know, energetic, my head just about popped off seeing all those Andaras. Melanie and I were like, oh my gosh, ah, you know, totally activated. And they had big ones. You know, I mean, next time I go, I'm going to take a suitcase just for that. You know, and I was just amazed, shocked at that they just don't know what they are.
Hmm.
Mhm.
Write this down.
Yeah, kind of interesting, right? I guess, I mean, I guess they know that there is, you know, something worth selling, right?
Well, it's
With
pretty
these stones.
colors, you know, that kind of thing. They
Exactly.
probably look at that. But for me, it's almost like it looks, when I look at them, I love them. It's almost like the different ray colors, you know, making up
Yeah.
the full ray of creation. So there's
Yeah.
that, it feels like there is something very black to it.
I would totally agree with that. You know, and you just pick them up and you feel, you know, you feel the energetics like flow in. Yeah, really easily. Yeah.
Amazing.
I thought another really interesting thing that we did that we didn't talk about at all, I'll just touch on it real quick, is we went to this perfume shop. So in Egypt, the way that they well, this guy who we went to see, his name was Abdullah. He was a Reiki master, and his father was a Reiki master. His grandfather was a Reiki master. And he'd been in the perfume business the family had been in the perfume business for 7 generations. And they make these essences with the flowers where they'll press the flowers. So they get the liquid, the scent and the liquid, and then they set them in a clay jar and sometimes bury them under the earth. And different scents go longer than others, but maybe it's 6 months or maybe it's 6 weeks, depending upon what the essence is. So the water evaporates, and then they bind them with jojoba oil, and they sell these essences in these little bottles. And I got some. He had goddess oils and, you know, different scents. So I got lotus, which is you smell everywhere. You smell the lotus scent everywhere. And I got, you know, seven different ones. But one of the things that I noticed, like putting that oil on your skin, it's very strong. I've mixed some with alcohol to make like, you know, like a spray, and that works really well. But when you put that oil on your skin, can feel the vibration of the flower essences, like, you know, entering into your body. It's really extraordinary, you know, and I think he was, you know, the guy we saw was really, really special. You could feel the healing energy, right, in the work, in the oils that he was doing. But that's one of the things that I've been playing with and using, you know, since I got back. So
That's really cool.
Mm.
Like flowers and smells themselves are both like flowers are transformational energy, and like the fragrances are completion energy, because flowers don't really make their smell until they're just ready to transform.
Yeah, I was
Really powerful.
watching some California road trip, and the lady went to a lavender farm and said, well, how do you know when to harvest the lavender? And she said, well, when the bees are all on it, right? That's when the flower is opened enough that the fragrance and the nectar are, you know, at its prime. And I thought, oh, they're taking it away from the bees.
I forget what the smell is called, but there's an actual smell I think it starts with E, but it's like it has to do with ripening. And like when you put other smells by other things, they start to ripen faster.
Mhm.
So it's like, you put bananas beside something else and
Yeah.
it'll just
Yep.
start to ripen really fast. And it's the smell that does that. And
Mhm.
those flowers have such powerful smell. It's like with what they're doing to them, they're like
Mhm.
concentrating galore that smell.
Yeah, very concentrated. Be careful. Be careful what you drop that oil on. It will smell like that for weeks. Yeah, I mean, I put some on my skin and it lasted like 3 days, after showering.
Mhm.
Mm.
And there's
Sheesh.
one more thing I want to add, which is I bring this up just because you said about the green and the purple color.
Mhm.
When like you sometimes see the green as purple, as you said. Did I get that right?
We're talking about the energy of the heart,
Yeah.
the chakra colors of the heart.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I've been using like this my PEMF mat now. And it's got the biofeedback unit on the eyes. And it has the different colors that it'll just like it'll flash red or it'll flash purple, or it'll flash green. And it's just so interesting that sometimes like it'll flash purple, but you'll see green.
Mhm.
Or it'll be flashing yellow when you see yellow, or it'll be flashing or it'll be flashing red and you see yellow. So
Mhm.
it's kind of interesting the mix matching that's going on.
Yeah,
Um,
in when I took art in school, we talked about the opposite colors on the color wheel, right? And purple would be opposite of yellow, blue would be opposite of orange. And so it's almost like, when you're seeing a positive image flashing, you might close your eyes and then see the negative image of it. And it sort of sometimes works like that with color. But the light spectrum is a little bit different though than the pigment spectrum.
It's just interesting because some I find my eyes actually like green. I have a hard time seeing, like with my eyes closed and it's flashing. The green I have a hard time seeing. Some like sometimes the whole rainbow comes in, but it's like yeah. I thought that was cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
This is cool. This is
Great.
Yeah.
it's fun exploring.
Yeah, well, thank you. Lana's been really quiet today. Do you have any questions, Lana? Anything to say over there? Maybe she's busy. Anyway, well, thank you, everyone. Really appreciate you
Thank
all.
you.
And, thanks for listening. And certainly if you have any other questions or anything, let me know.
Thank you. Thank you very,
Thank you.
very
Thanks,
much
Tanya.
for putting this
And
together.
thanks for recording today, Martina, because obviously mine took a
Oh, okay.
flying F.
Did you not record the rest?
No, I never got back
fantastic.
to recording.
No
So
worries. Okay, well, I'll put it
Well,
on there. I will put it on. Well done. Now, thank you very much. Thank you. That was really, really beautiful.
Yes. Thank you, Tanya.
Yeah,
I-
thanks,
I
Tanya.
don't-
It was an awesome presentation.
Yeah. You
Great.
took us on a really great trip.
I don't have to
Right,
go to
thank
eat
you.
because I've just spent.
Oh yeah, I guess I have to
I
end
know.
the show.
Right?
Thank you,
I know.
everyone. Thanks for
Vibing.
joining us on the Earth Nouveau Hub. We'll see you
Thank
next
you.
week.
See you next week.
See you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.